Hey there, everybody. Hope you're having a good day. Hope you made it through all the snow we had yesterday. If you had snow where you were, I know on the East Coast they got blasted. We here in Western New York, we got a little bit of snow, and in our neck of the woods, we got about 5 inches last night. So I have a great next door neighbor came over and scraped off my driveway, so I didn't have to start my tractor and do it myself. But eventually, that time's going to come. But here we are. Since we are in the middle of the week, maybe we should take a look at the gospel lesson that's coming up this Sunday. And it's one that it's just chock full of surprises. And I'm not going to give them all away now. I'm just going to point out a few of them to kind of whet your appetite a little bit. And maybe if you look at it ahead of time, you can start picking them out or even anticipating them. And hopefully, wherever you may go to church, your pastor will be able to point out a few of those surprises for you. It's Mark, the first chapter, verses 29 through 39. Has a pretty basic and simple flow to it. First, the four disciples that Jesus had already fished out of the waters, so to speak, told them he would make them into fishermen, people who would fish for people. Okay, he takes them from the synagogue, and then they leave and they go to Simon and Andrew's house. All right, but what they find is Simon's mother-in-law is sick with a fever. Hey, come on, take a couple aspirin, right? A couple Tylenol. Didn't have that stuff back then, and since it was his mother-in-law, you have to assume she's a bit older, right? And possibly this could be serious stuff. She could be at the point of death. We don't know. Jesus takes her hand, heals her, and she goes on to make supper for them. Crazy, isn't it? Crazy. Well, now later on in that evening, the whole city shows up. They all come and bring their sick and ill people to Jesus, and Jesus heals a bunch of them. And he also tells demons to shut up. Hey, he did that earlier. Remember when he was in the synagogue? And the last thing that happens is Jesus decides, hey, I need some quiet time. And he takes off. But doesn't tell anybody. And the disciples are looking desperately for him. They finally find him. They're saying, come on, Jesus, everybody wants you. And he goes, hey, it's time to move on. We have to proclaim the good news of the kingdom throughout all the villages, not just here in Capernaum. We need to move on out. All right, so that's the basic outline of it. But there's a lot of cool stuff in here. First of all, did you even know that Peter was married? Yeah, he had to be married if he had a mother-in-law, right? So that's kind of a neat little thing there, just a little tidbit. Because often we think these disciples, they were just guys who were rough and tough and ready to rock and roll for Jesus and nothing to hold them back, right? Hey, how about a family? Think that could hold you back? Peter, wow, think of what he sacrificed in his life to follow Jesus. All right, so you had that going on there. Just the very fact that after Jesus healed her, she got up and made them supper. Is that the only reason you healed her, Jesus? Unless we look at the word that's in there that says she made them dinner. It was the word serve, and that basically most often was used in serving a meal. But it's also a word for service in general as well. And it's the very word from which we get our deacon and deaconess, those who are in serving roles within the church. Now it starts getting a little interesting, doesn't it? How about the fact that he told the demons to shut up. Is it possible that Jesus' fame was beginning already to get in the way of his ministry? And that could be another reason why he had to move on? Because he didn't want the people getting too messed up with their ideas of who the Messiah was. He didn't come to liberate the people from the Romans. He came to liberate the people from those things that kept them entangled and enmeshed in themselves and in their own sinfulness. He came to liberate them to live in God's kingdom under God's reign for life. And that's why he was telling the demons to shut up, because they kept yelling out who he was. Jesus, Son of God, the Holy One of God. Jesus didn't want them getting the wrong ideas. All right, so you have that. Just the very fact that Jesus had to find a lonely spot. He had to regenerate. He had to recharge the batteries. Wait a minute. He's just starting his ministry. He's doing it already? Yep. You're going to see in the Gospel of Mark, he does that a couple of times. Goes off into a quiet place. What's kind of amusing about this part of the lesson is that Simon and his fellow fishermen, his companions, they're going out and they're looking all over the place for Jesus. It's a word in the Greek that means they put a lot of effort into it, and they were searching high and low and underneath every rock and behind every tree. Yeah, that's what it means. So it's kind of amusing that they were kind of worried and, where are you, Jesus? You can go in a lot of different directions with that. But the fact is, he went throughout Galilee, preaching the message everywhere, in their synagogues, and casting out demons. There's a lot about casting out demons, right? There's a lot of things that possess us and turn our lives inside out and push us in the wrong directions. Things that Jesus is able to put an end to. That's an interesting thing. But I think most interesting of all is what I'm going to base my sermon on come this Sunday. And that is Peter's mother-in-law. I think there's two things that emerge from looking at her. The first thing is she is the very paradigm, the very model of resurrection right here in the beginning of the Gospel of Mark. And we're going to see this same model of resurrection play out several other times throughout the Gospel in the healing stories. And number two, she also is the very essence of what it means to respond to God's goodness toward us in service. So you have those two things that I'm going to touch on when I do my sermon, and hopefully that's something that you'll not only pick up here, but you will pick up as we go through the entire Gospel of Mark. And it's not that long, remember. It's the shortest gospel there is, and it moves real fast, and it gets right to the point. Right to the point. Because when we get to the end and we see that angel, the women don't find Jesus at the empty tomb, right? And what does the angel say? Hey, he told you what to do. Go back, meet him in Galilee. And it's in Galilee that he's casting out demons and preaching and healing. And do you get the point? Resurrection. Resurrection. Resurrected lives everywhere. God's blessings be with you, and I hope you can get excited about reading just 10 verses in the first chapter of Mark, as excited as I am, because I know this is going to propel us through the rest of this gospel. God's blessings be with you.